everybody, it's Wendy. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here today. We're going to use this cute little fairy image from the Fairy Celebration stamp set in the new Stampin' Up! Annual Catalog. I've already tested several of my colors that I'm using today on this little scratch piece of watercolor paper using my Aqua painter. You can see yesterday's video for details on that. I highly recommend this is something you do when you're getting ready to paint a project. This is a piece of watercolor paper and it's cut at 5 by 3 1/8. And I'm going to go ahead and ink up my image really good with my StazOn ink. I did re-ink my StazOn ink pad prior to doing this because when you use watercolor paper, sometimes it's a struggle to get a really clean, crisp image when you're stamping. So I went ahead and made sure that my Stampin' Up! Or my StazOn ink pad was really moist and wet before I stamped this image. Especially because there's a lot of detail in this image. So I got a beautiful stamped image. It came out perfect. I didn't have any areas where it was a little bit lighter or messed up. And I have my Stampin' Up! Aqua painter here, and I'm just zooming in so that you can see really up close all the painting that I'm going to be doing on this. Now I'm going to speed the painting up because if we didn't, this video would be 37 minutes long, and I know that you all have lives. So I'm starting out using rose red, and again, if you want to see how I got that ink into that ink pad, you can watch yesterday's video because I talk about that there. And I am just going to start painting this mushroom all around the little white dots. I love the rose red color. It's like the perfect color for this mushroom. So I just kind of started doing that. Now, when I was choosing my colors for this project, I wanted lots of pinks and purples, and I wanted a very soft, muted look. I did not want super bright on this. Okay, I'm going in with my crumb cake now, and I'm painting the bottom of my mushroom. Now you'll see that there's not a lot of shading happening here. Everything's just kind of a pretty flat coverage, and that's because I'm going to go back in later after these have dried and add some layers of color. I'm now using Wild Wasabi to paint the grass, and I turned my image upside down because it was just easier to pull that paint from the bottom to the top rather than to try to paint down. So I encourage you, when you are doing a watercolor piece or something like this, even coloring, just turn your image to make it easier for you to color. It just really helps a lot. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just going at the bottom and I'm pulling up, and the goal is for the pigment in the brush to get a little bit lighter as I go up, so you have a little bit darker color at the base of this grass. This is a very detailed image, like I said, and it's a very tiny, so you want to make sure you have a good brush. The Aqua painters are perfect because they come to a really nice sharp point at the end, and I am barely putting any pressure on this brush at all. That is what I have learned is one of the keys to painting, and it's taken me a while to catch on to that because I tend to have a heavy hand in everything that I do. So FYI, it helps to just really lighten your grip and lighten up the pressure that you're putting on the brush. So I'm using Wisteria Wonder here to go in and paint her dress. I wanted a really soft, kind of flowy look to her dress. I did not want a harsh, dark color. Again, I'm trying to keep this whole image soft with pops of color, but kind of pastel-y at the same time. I really wanted these flowers to pop and have a lot of pretty variation in them. So I'm using the Aqua painter and my paper towel here, and as you can see, I'm dropping a lot of pigment down into the base of this flower, and then as I go, I'm wiping off some of that pigment on that paper towel and then going back in and adding color to the top. So you get this fade or shadow at the base of the flower and on the inside of the flower, and then the tops end up having this really light, soft look. Now, if you're wanting to see photos of this card all finished close up, you can look at my blog at loveandstampin.com. But I do finish it out here on the video, and you can see them at the end. But sometimes I like just being able to look at a photo to put everything together. I cut out a little bit of the painting because it just was so long, and I just knew that the video was going to be too long if I kept everything in. So here I'm using Pink Pirouette to brush in some color on her face and her legs and her arms. These are all Stampin' Up! Ink pads and colors. Everything I'm using here is Stampin' Up! Product except for the watercolor paper. The watercolor paper is Strathmore watercolor paper. You can find it on Amazon. It's pretty inexpensive, and it's a student grade watercolor paper, but I really like it. It seems to hold up pretty well. I'm using Early Espresso for her hair, and I'm just kind of doing a light coat, and then again I will go back in here in a little bit and add some detail to her hair after that sets up and dries. Now I'm going to be able to spread a little bit of Pink Pirouette into those white areas on that mushroom, because I do want the mushroom to just have, I want the white to have a little bit of color in it, but not a lot. I'm using Flirty Flamingo to go around the edges of her wings because it's a little bit deeper orangey pink color, and it just kind of gave a very nice outline to her Blushing Bride wings. So again, I tested all these colors out on a swatch prior to doing this. And I think in a lot of the videos I watch, they don't share that kind of information with you. And it sometimes leaves me feeling like, how do they know what colors to use? By the way, here on the mushroom, I'm adding a bunch of shading underneath the mushroom there using some more crumb cake and Early Espresso. I went back into my rose red and picked up a bunch of pigment, and I'm adding that under where she's sitting to add some more shading and let it kind of go lighter down at the bottom of the mushroom. I've really learned that shading is like the key to success with all painting, coloring. It just can make your whole project come to life and really stand out. As you can see on the mushroom, when I darkened that area right under the top of the mushroom, it made that stem kind of recede, and it made that little mushroom cap feel like it's coming forward and almost a little bit more 3D. So I'm just adding now some extra little shading pieces and different stuff like that. I'm adding in some more Early Espresso on her hair in just a few areas so that she's got lighter and darker hair. It's a little hard to see here in the video, again, because this image is so small and detailed. One thing I want to mention as I'm coloring here, before I miss the opportunity, I wanted to just let you know, if you purchase Stampin' Up! Products from me in my online store, you will get free card kits from me. You have to make sure you use the host code that is over on my website, and it's on the left-hand side of the screen, or I'm sorry, it's on the right-hand side of the screen. And I have a new host code every month, and you get free card kits in exchange for that host code. So FYI on that. And make sure that if you order over 150 in product, that you don't use the host code, because I will still send you the kits, but the host code will prevent you from getting your own host benefits. Also, I should mention that if you join Stampin' Up! By purchasing the starter kit during the month of June, you get 2 free stamp sets. So if you want more info about that, you can message me at lovinstampin.com. I have a contact form there. Okay, so I'm using Soft Sky to go all around this image, and it's a very light blue, so that's why you're not seeing it super great in this video. But I'm just kind of scribbling it all the way around the image, but I'm not going to the edges of the paper because I don't want to do that. I just want there to be kind of a scribble. And this is a card that I'm actually casing the idea from Sean D. Oliver at Global Design Challenge. And so, or Global Design Project, their challenge was to case a card from him. So that's what he did in his background. He kind of created a little bit of a shadow there. Now I'm going into the very bottom of this card and I'm creating a shadow. Now I've made this card twice. This is my second time making this card. The photos you'll see over on my website do not have this shading down at the bottom, and I don't like it as well. But this is what happens when you practice something and then you learn. I realized it needed that, and it absolutely made a huge difference in this card when I added that shading right there at the very base. It looked like it was actually growing out of the ground, right? So right here, I added some Wink of Stella to her hair and to her wings, because that is something that I thought this needed. And I'm closing up all my ink pads and getting them out of the way now. Now on my other card, I added sequins. But I didn't do that on this one because I couldn't decide if I really liked the sequins or not. So I didn't add any sequins to this piece, and I just left it just how it was. I just let it set for a couple minutes to kind of dry while I put my ink pads away. And then I'm going to get ready to assemble the card. It didn't take a ton of time for this to dry because there wasn't tons of layers of water. All I'm doing right here was lifting a little bit of color out of her face that accidentally kind of bled over into her face, and I wanted to remove that color. Okay, I'm using my fast fuse adhesive here, and the actual runner runs out of tape right there at the end, which I found hilarious because that's my luck. Then I have a piece of Soft Sky paper here. This is just Soft Sky cardstock, and it's cut at 4 inches by 5 1/4. And these are the little fairy dust stamped image from the Fairy Celebration stamp set. So all I'm doing is I'm going along the edge and I'm stamping Soft Sky ink on Soft Sky paper to create a little bit of texture and interest on that side of the card. And Sean did the same thing on his card. So if you want to see his card, by the way, you can check it out on my blog at loveandstampin.com. So I went ahead and I stamped along the edge there to add a little bit of interest. And then I'm going to add my watercolor piece down to the top, centering it, but staying off to the side. So I'm making sure that it's matted, but it's staying off to the edge. And then I'm going to take the happy birthday sentiment that is also in the Fairy Celebration stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it in Soft Sky all along the edge. Now, the interesting part of this is you really can't see the sentiment very well. It's just kind of hidden there, but I really, really like the way it looks. It ended up being pretty charming, and I really enjoyed it. Now I used gold thread to finish this card by wrapping it around the edge in between the watercolor piece and where the blue comes together. I didn't finish showing you how I did that because all I did was wrap it and tie a bow, and I suck at tying bows on video and it became a big mess, so I just cut that out. So this was my finished card. These are both of them. You can see the one that has the sequins and then there's the one without. I hope you enjoyed this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can click on either one of these images to see more watercoloring from me. If you're on a tablet or a phone, it will not work to click on these images, just so you know. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Bye-bye.